Hey, welcome to your week 8 lecture. And this week we will be discussing chapter 11 only, which deals with assault and related offenses. Assault and related offenses. So, chapter 11 is going to talk about the different classifications of assault. We have simple assault, we have aggravated assault, and simple assault, threats by one person to cause bodily harm or death to another person, or purposely inflicting bodily harm on another person. Aggravated assault takes it to a different level, and it includes the elements of simple assault plus an element relating to the severity of the attack. So generally, at least one element is needed to show aggravated assault. That is the high probability of death, the serious and or permanent disfigurement, and the loss or impairment of body members or organs. That's simple assault and aggravated assault. The chapter then goes on to discuss the preliminary investigation, what the police court system goes through, the stages that they go through when handling an assault investigation, and of course, that is in the beginning, to disarm or control the situation where the assault or altercation has occurred, to then provide medical attention to anyone that may be injured, to try and separate the suspects. This sometimes can be difficult if they're dealing with a domestic violence issue, which we'll discuss that next. To get statements, to photograph any injuries or the scene where the assault occurred or altercation occurred, to collect and preserve any evidence, and afterwards, if it's really really bad, they'll try and reconstruct the scene in case they have to provide that information for the prosecutor. Next, we deal with the sensitive topic of domestic violence. Domestic violence is one of the most serious calls that officers respond to. We have a lot of officers that statistically has shown that they are killed mostly on domestic violence calls. And that is because generally these are heated calls. They're calls where there are family members involved or husband and wife. And so tensions can run very high. Usually with domestic violence, the officer responding will take more than one officer because they know that these are serious calls. I don't know if any of you watch a Live PD, but there was an episode on there where the officer responded to a domestic violence call, and once the officer was trying to subdue the boyfriend, the girlfriend jumped on her back. So you'll have that happen a lot with domestic violence calls. The woman will call, but then when the police gets there, she realizes that the male or her husband or boyfriend is going to be arrested. She will then turn on the officer or say, I don't want to arrest him, or go down later and try and drop the charges. So what most states have done is they have stated that the state will press charges, is no longer in the hands of the victim, because they understand the cycle of violence or domestic abuse can be very shaky. So the victim may want him prosecuted that first night, then she has time to cool off and think about it, and then she's back in love that second night. So the state will press charges. When the officer arrives on scene, he normally will assess the scene and find out who has injuries. Unfortunately, the person with the injuries will be the person that is taken to jail, or the person that's caused the injuries is the person that's taken to jail. Now, what happens if both parties show injuries? Husband and wife fighting, both of them he has a knot upside his head, she has scratches, or she has a knot and he has scratches. Then most officers, this is a call where discretion is used, but state law says that somebody has to go. Somebody has to go. So in instances like this, they usually arrest both parties. You say, why? That seems cruel. Well, they do that because if they leave that house and leave both parties there and one kills the other, then that liability is then going to fall on the police officer. Yes, it will. So the unfortunate thing about domestic violence is once you are convicted, not arrested, but convicted of domestic violence, then you can no longer carry a firearm. So we're going to get into domestic violence. I have a video that shows you how domestic violence started, and it's just to warn you, it's going to be a pretty graphic video, but it gives us a rich history of domestic violence and why it's important. Lastly, we're going to talk about rape. We're going to identify the profile of rapists, discuss what rape means, different rape cases, Rape, according to the common law, is the carnal knowledge or penetration by force with a lack of consent. Consent is one thing that's difficult to prove in court. And so we'll talk about the rape scene, the rape victims, what happens when a person's raped. We'll also go into the profile of the rapist. What type of rapist do we have? Power assurance rapists, power assertive, anger retaliatory rapists, anger excited rapists. There are different types of rapists and they fall under that profile. So after that, go to your discussion post, and I have a discussion about the domestic violence law here in Mississippi. So I'm anxious to read what your thoughts are on that. And again, reach out to me if you have any questions. Have a nice week.